as Toyo and my name is Toyo Phillips.
Welcome to As Toyo Sees. My name is Toyo Phillips. As Toyo Sees is a talk show that addresses a variety of social issues, from the serious to the amusing, the sad, and even the controversial. My guests and I will be talking about these issues and sharing candid experiences that have shaped how we see things. Now it's time for me to introduce my guest of the day, and it is none other than the phenomenal media entrepreneur, Arit Okpo. Yay! Welcome to the show, Arit. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Okay. So a little background on Arit. Arit has produced and presented a variety of shows. Most recognizable to me is The Crunch, that was on Ebony Live TV, and my favorite, you know I love to travel, Destinations Africa, that she did with Wakana. That was very interesting. But Arit has moved on from producing for an established organization to being an independent producer. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, the independent life of a creative. So I want to know, is being an indie person or an independent producer the same as being a freelance producer?
Well, for freelance, what you're basically looking at is working for a number of organizations. I think for me, the main difference when you're independent is that you start from a point of personal interest or personal passion, and then you look for a meeting point between what you want to do and who needs to see it.
Right.
So for me, that's probably the difference, I would say.
So freelance, you're hopping everywhere.
You know, I'm going to this person, I want to work for you, I want to do this for you, I want to do that for you. And as an indie, I'm saying, what do I want to talk about? Okay, so who would be interested in hearing this?
Right.
And then you chase it that way.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Because sometimes I mix the two words. I mix indie and freelance.
I don't think it's such a big
it's
deal.
not a big deal. Okay, so you worked for an established organization, like I said, and congratulations on the success of The Crunch.
Thank you.
The Crunch was actually huge.
The $12 billion, 650,000 ton capacity Dangote refinery.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, and it's a lot of fuel, you know?
Yeah.
What was it about? It was current affairs, I know. But what else did you discuss?
We wanted with The Crunch to create a show that talked about everyday issues, but in an easy conversational way. Because a lot of people shy away from news because they feel like they have to be really intellectual or really political.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to show was that these are things that affect every one of us. And if we break it down to where it's gist, everybody now sees a reason why they should get behind something or the other, they should be aware. Right. So that was the aim, the objective, and I like to think we achieved it.
You actually did achieve that. I loved your
Thank you.
set. I loved how you spoke to people. I just loved you. You can tell I'm fun,
Thank
right?
you. It's a mutual appreciation thing, you know that.
Yes. Okay, so what were the perks of working for an established business?
I was very fortunate to work with one of the foremost media entrepreneurs in the country, Mo Abudu, in fact on the continent. And Mo has no boundaries. She was the kind of person that would give you an objective and set you free to do it. Now that's both intimidating and exciting, because she really doesn't want to hear how. Do however
As
you
in,
want
this
to
is
do,
where you should
but
be
this
going.
is your objective.
Yeah.
So it was very freeing because you had the foundation of this is where I work. My bills are paid, the equipment is there, the crew is there, the technical is covered. But my creativity can go wherever it likes and I can do whatever I want to do. So it was a fantastic balance.
Were there any disadvantages?
Would there be any? I think, let me think. I don't want to sound cliche and all rosy and say there were no. I think if there was any disadvantage is that you might find yourself getting comfortable.
Right.
To where, because you know that you have that foundation, you don't push yourself anymore. You don't push yourself. So it's a give and take where you constantly have to reinvent yourself. And sometimes you forget.
Right.
You know, so if there was anything I would call a disadvantage, that would be it.
Okay. I was going to say, if you said there were no disadvantages, I'd have asked, then why did you leave?
Well,
so I'm still going to ask though, why did you leave?
I left because, like I say to people, it was time. You know,
that's the cliche. Now that's the cliche answer.
No, but you know, especially with The Crunch, I had begun to see the scope of media, not as an end in itself, but as a platform. People were sending me messages, could you talk about this? You know, this is something that needs awareness. And I became aware of just how socially driven I am as a creative.
Right.
I like to talk about the stories. I like to open doors, so to speak. And so I knew that it was time for me to take everything I had learned and do it on my own, you know, with a much broader scope. So it was time.
It was time. It was time, I guess. Okay, when we come back, we'll talk about things to take into consideration or things you took into consideration before leaving. We'll be right back.
Coming up on As Toyo Sees.
So you just reminded me with that 9 to 5, what you said. I had a former employer whose way of headhunting me was to tell me that I was not meant for the entrepreneurial life, that I was meant to be an employee. And it was very insulting to me.
Break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to As Toyo Sees. I'm speaking with media entrepreneur Arit Okpo. Okay, Arit. So, what do you take into consideration before leaving the business you worked with?
The first thing is that it can't be an ego thing. It can't be a situation of I've learned enough, because you're a creative, you know this, you never really learn enough. So it can't be an ego thing, and especially with us creatives, because we're so driven by what I would say is our spirits. Sometimes we don't balance things. You know, you feel I'm a bit stifled, okay, I'll go and do it on my own. You really can't make those kind of decisions, you know. So you have to get to the point where you know that this time or this place has given me all it's meant to. And I know that sounds very airy-fairy, but it's when you can look at it and know that it's not giving me as much as it used to. Not in a bad way, but because it has given me everything it can. You know, when your work starts feeling like a routine, sometimes what you need is another project, but sometimes what you need is another environment. So it's not something you take lightly. And if you find out that the things you're interested in outside are drawing you more than where you are, then it's good to wait. But it should never be something you just, you know, pick up your bag and your equipment and storm out the gate. You know.
I feel like that says a lot about your character as well, because a lot of people get comfortable. Like things are fine. I know, okay, I come at 9, I leave at 5. Things are fine. So I feel like that says a lot about the character as well.
It probably does.
So do you think like entrepreneurs are more aggressive than... Okay, so I need to state here now, because I saw something yesterday and it hit me. Okay. People in 9 to 5s, there's nothing wrong with them.
No.
There's absolutely nothing wrong with working with a business. Not everybody is created to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
That said, do you think entrepreneurs are more aggressive?
But you have to be. You have to be. And you know, you just reminded me with that 9 to 5, what you said. I had a former employer whose way of headhunting me was to tell me that I was not meant for the entrepreneurial life, that I was meant to be an employee. And it was very insulting to me. Not because, I mean, I've been an employee most of my life. And I do very well. I'm somebody who can be a manager. I'm very easily a manager, so it wasn't hard. But as an entrepreneur, your outcomes are up to you. If you don't work hard and you don't get the jobs, there's no money at the end of the month to pay your bills. Added to which, you're driven by your dreams, by your outcomes. Nobody's going to bring them to you. So, you know, what people mistake as aggressiveness, I think, is drive. And you have to push. It's as simple as that.
So how's life for you now as an independent creative?
Well,
how is it going, sis?
It's had its moments. I've had moments where I was like, am I sure I'm ready for this? Like, maybe I should have waited. But when you know what is calling you, you know, I know I'm on the right track. And you also get to a point as a person where you know that if I don't take these big steps now, there's going to come a point where security is more important to me. And I knew that this was the time. So it's had its moments. I'm adjusting. Like, you know, I'm adjusting to not expecting a paycheck at the end of the month. I'm realizing that I have to go and make those bids. I'm realizing that when people say, come and see if you can work for us, sometimes they don't mean to pay you. They just want you to come and work for free. And I'm learning when to...
In Nigeria?
Yes. I'm learning when it's a good deal, when it's a bad deal, how to say no without offending, but still stand my ground, you know? It's been a learning process, but we're working it. We're getting there.
Okay, so questions I have for independents and freelancers, independent people and freelancers is, couldn't you have kept, especially those that leave jobs, like couldn't you have kept that job and treated this as a side gig? Like now we are talking about multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
That's what everybody's preaching now, like multiple streams. So couldn't you have kept one stream, as in end of the month, I know I'm getting this money, and then now done your own thing as a side gig?
It wouldn't have stayed a side gig. One would have suffered.
Like a wife and a side chick.
Exactly, you know, one is always upset. My work with as an employee was very time consuming. I worked, you know, on an average 12-hour days. And I would literally come home, eat and pass out, and then wake up like around 10 at night to reply and plan ahead. When it's like that, for me, I mean, it might not be the same for others, but I knew that I would never give my focus to the things I wanted to do if I stayed an employee. I'm that kind of person. I'm wholehearted. If I'm here, I'm here, you know. And so I knew that I would have to let go of one to grab the other.
Right. Okay, so I'm loving this conversation with Arit, but we need to take a break. We'll be back after this break.
Coming up on As Toyo Sees.
Because we do have a tendency to gloss over the struggles and just get to the stories, the testimonies.
True.
But the truth is, I've had periods since I left where I've had to call people and be like, I have bills to pay. And I don't have money. Help me, please. You know?
Break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to As Toyo Sees. I've been talking about the independent life of a creative with Arit Okpo. So Arit, what has the most fulfilling thing been for you, being on your own?
I think it's knowing that I can do just about anything I have a passion for, and giving myself permission to explore, even though to some people it might look like I've suddenly lost focus. It's very personally satisfying because I also wanted a lifestyle change. I wanted a life that is like a holiday. You know, I don't want my life to be work and play.
Amen, Lord.
Let's
Amen to
preach it.
that.
You know, and that's what I wanted. Yeah. And so now making deliberate steps towards creating that life. I say that I'm on my way to living a life brighter and more colorful than I've ever dreamed. And so I think that for me is just, it's the thing that makes it worth it.
Do you know I love you, right?
I love you right back. You know this thing.
This thing is so mutual. Like, I love hearing you speak. Okay, but what has the most challenging thing been?
Money. let's say it as it is, you know, because we do have a tendency to gloss over the struggles and just get to the stories, the testimonies.
True.
But the truth is, I've had periods since I left where I've had to call people and be like, I have bills to pay and I don't have money. Help me, please. You know. And for somebody who is so independent, it has been hard, but even that has been a lesson. You know, it has forced me to ask myself, okay, this job that you say you're not going to do, are you sure you will not do it?
Yeah.
And it hasn't been easy.
Yeah.
But then you look at the end goal and you push through, and then things start to come in and you can exhale a little bit, you know. It's made me more economical. You can't just be going and
everywhere,
having nights out like
up.
we like. You know, turn up, can't I do it in my house?
Let's all gather together
exactly.
and watch a movie on TV.
You know,
yeah, but did you think about that before leaving? Did you save enough? Because I feel like something that happens to creatives is they don't save enough. They believe that first one.
I didn't.
You didn't save
and
enough.
Being honest,
but did you think about saving? Did a part of your mind think I'm saving?
Yes. I was sure I was saving. I was sure that I had enough for at least 3 to 6 months.
Yes.
And I was sure that things would flood in immediately.
Amen. You're a sister of faith.
You understand this thing. And then I had a big financial need a big financial obligation I didn't plan for. And I was like, oh wow, okay, I didn't see that coming. And so it made it a bit more difficult. But yes, creatives, we always think it will be fine.
Yeah.
It will come. And especially when you're a creative wanting to work on your own, you have to learn. You have to learn quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so how has it been telling your vision though to people? Like this vision of your own stuff. How has it been selling your new brand, new identity to people? So potential sponsors, partners.
You know, the weirdest thing is that people saw it before I did. I told people I was leaving.
That happens.
It does, right?
That happens.
I told people I was leaving, and 90% of the responses were congratulations.
Not why.
Not why, which you would expect because the economic climate and all of that, you know. There were some people asking, are you sure this is the right time? Not that you should not leave, but are you sure it's the right time? But the majority of the answers were congratulations. So as I'm going on my own, it's given me a lot of confidence to present the brand that, I mean, I've spent 3 years building this, you know, and so people saw it way before I did.
That's amazing.
It's unexpected.
Amazing. And I think it always happens like that. People tend to see because sometimes we can be pessimistic, and human beings tend to look at the worst side of themselves, like, oh my God, it's not time, I'm not ready, all of that. And then there are just people that would be like, what is wrong with you? Like, do you know who you are? Do you know how I see you? You know? All of that. Yeah. So that's really good to know. So what's the end goal for Arit?
The end goal for Arit is, I hesitate to use the word a media empire because it sounds a bit grandiose. But
there's nothing wrong with grandiose, girl.
Well,
nothing wrong with that.
This is true. This is true. Our biggest fear is that we are
something like
that's
we're shining bright.
You know, but I'm so excited by all the things I've discovered media can do. You know, you tell somebody something, and because you're sitting down behind a TV screen, they believe you.
Yes.
It's a responsibility.
Yes.
And, you know, looking at how we can talk about governance, we can highlight the stories of women, we can talk about education, we can actually use it as a force. I'm looking forward to engaging media and all these other things, and, you know, becoming known as that person who has that credibility, the person that when she talks about this, you know that it's true. She's done her research. She's balanced. She's telling it as it is, not as people think it should be. That when I call somebody and say, would you like to come on and talk about this, they're a bit nervous because they're not really sure what to expect, but they know that it is in their interest to come.
Yes.
That's where I want to go. So we're working towards that.
Oh gosh, I love the sound of that. I love the sound of that. So to new creatives, what would you say? To new independent creatives? Yes.
Well, don't do like I did and think that you have enough money. Chances are you need to plan. Don't jump into this. Plan for it. And even though sometimes you might not have the money, sometimes you do have to take a leap of faith. But understand that it will not always be rosy, and be ready for that. Be ready for the fact that people will forget you, because to many people you're only as useful as what you can do. Don't take it personally if people that used to call you every 5 minutes suddenly don't answer your calls. It's fine. But stick with it, stick with the hard times. If you know you're not good with management or administration, find someone that can help you. And you know, it's synergy, it's working together, and you'll be fine.
Okay guys, I need time to take down notes. We'll be back after this break.
We're taking a break and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to As Toyo Says, and it would not be As Toyo Says if you don't know what I'm saying. So, for the aspiring creatives and aspiring entrepreneurs, people that want to leave the established organizations that they work at right now, I'd say make sure you're confident enough to take that bold step, because there's a lot to be learned from working with established organizations. They're established, they must be doing something right, so there's stuff to be learned from them. But once you've decided, like once you're sure in your head, like listen, I'm going to do my own thing, be ready to fight. Fight for the recognition you deserve, the recognition your project deserves. For indie musicians, fight for your songs to get that airplay on all the radio stations, because it's a dog-eat-dog world out here. And it's not all glamorous on this side, to be honest. There's a lot of struggle, and Arit has already spoken about that a lot. So keep seeking, keep asking, keep knocking, and as I always say, things will fall into place. Thank you so much for being on the show, Arit. And thank you guys for watching. Stay engaged with the show by following us on social media at As Toyo Says on Twitter and Instagram. Make someone's life better today. See you next time. Bye.
This is As Toyo Says, and my name is Toyo Philip. Thank you for watching.